I am back to hopefully complete this image here of the steampunk bird. And I'm just trying to decide what I want to go in and do shading. I think I might do some shading first. And then I'll come back in and do some pen shading as well. And anywhere I use pencil, I'll use my blending stick. I love how when you do pen and ink drawing, and you come back in with a little bit of shading, how much that makes that pop. Big difference. We'll give him a little bit of shading under this little flap of skin. We'll call it his eyebrow. We'll give a little bit of shade under it. And then we have some shadows being cast onto this backdrop, which I'm going to put in. This is shadows off of his little feathers, or bird feathers, whatever you want to call this. And I may darken these up a little bit later. I'll just try to get some bases down. I did a former picture of a steampunk man that I may go back. I think I used colored pencil with it. I may go back and use my pencil and do this with the other one, because I like how subtle but yet how smooth this looks, how clean it looks. And although I have a shadow up here from the eyebrow, eyelid, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be like a raised lip around the clock, and so because it's raised, I want to cast a shadow, a little bit of a shadow from that as well. And then I'm just pulling that out a little bit so it's kind of feathers out as it gets further in. Just blending it out. I'm going to go to my micron pen and do a little bit of shading like this. Just so you see the depth of these little curls on the back of his neck. And then on my previous picture, I went in and kind of did this a little bit of I don't know what you call it, a black outline. And then going back in and just darkening up right where that shadow would cast. Just makes it pop a little bit more contrast there. Almost looks like a little rope or something here. And I'm just going to darken this line right here up. Almost like you're seeing a shadow cast off of the edge of that. And we'll give it a little bit of a hump. Okay, and then I did some shadows up here, but I'm gonna go in and actually draw some shadows too with my pen. then I'm going to flip upside down because on my original drawing I did this kind of almost like a stripe technique all the way across, and it's just the way I shaded it. I'll do this again on this one. I'm trying not to talk a whole lot so my birds will stop jibber jabbering, but they have not stopped yet. Okay, then we'll put some lines kind of contouring this beak as well. Now I'm kind of laying down the ink out of my pen a little dark on the bottom, and then sort of almost lifting off the paper as I go up, just so the lines will be lighter as they go up the beak, and then that dark edge where the shadow would be is darker on the bottom. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. And then I want to pull these up just a little bit more. Going back through again. And then I'll just take my pen and go along the edge to make that really crisp and bold and dark. And he has a bottom lip right here that's got the chain sort of attached inside there. We'll do it dark since it's sort of hidden. Not really hidden, but it's underneath that top lip. And of course I'm going to shadow this little panel. It's funny because when I'm drawing, I notice I do this with exercise and I do this when I'm drawing, but I tend to hold my breath and stop breathing. It's just a habit. I concentrate so hard on it that I'm afraid that if I'm breathing while I'm drawing that I will mess something up, so I'll literally kind of hold my breath. Now I'm going to put a deeper shadow underneath here, but I'm just doing this little bit thicker edge along the bottom of the bird's face. And that just, it starts that shadow off really dark. And then it'll lighten up as it goes down. And when I first put on a shadow with a pencil, it looks really grainy, gritty kind of looking. But once I use my blender, it's like taking a colored pencil or a crayon, and you could do a crayon, color in a coloring book. Get my train of thought right. But anyway, you can color in a coloring book and barely apply pressure, and your crayons will do the same thing. It'll have a grainy, gritty look. But if you apply the crayon really hard or deep into the paper, you can actually get it to blend in and look pretty smooth. And that's kind of the way with this. It just smooths out that look. And then I'm just sort of pulling and dragging that bottom out a little bit, so it looks like it's just sort of fading into it. I'll do a little bit under this little lip here. Now my original, I have this panel here sort of doing like his eye. So let's see. Well, I might could do it this way. You ever seen a piece of metal that looks like it's been sanded, or now if it's polished it's going to look smooth, but if it's just been sanded with some type of sandpaper or I'm not sure, grinder or something, then it's going to have this, you'll see lines in the metal. And I kind of wanted this to look like that, almost like it's grind marks or sanded marks in the metal. Then I'm going to do some of these marks sort of on his belly, almost like he has feathers or something going on underneath. And although I'm following the natural bend of this curve, what happens when you're doing like sections like I'm doing is you sometimes have an overlap. You'll see like an overlap up here where I've already gone over that area once. It's like when you go to paint a house and you overlap your paint with your roller, you'll get this little roller edge. So I'm just kind of going back up through it and crossing back through it again to help hide that. We don't want to see a lot of edges, little sharp edges on there. I won't stop and start points. That's what I'm trying to say. And then each one of these panels that overlaps is going to have a cast shadow. And I'm doing part of the cast shadow with my pen, and then I'll go back over it with my pencil. Because these are overlapping metal feathers, I guess you'd call them. His wings. All of these really subtle strokes that I'm making, you may not be able to pick it up much on the camera with the video. You might not be able to see what I'm seeing, but it's very subtle but necessary. It needs to be in there. These little details like this is what makes the picture look more dimensional, three-dimensional. I don't know if any of you have been keeping up with the news and the weather, but we've got this hurricane coming through, and it's supposed to affect us. I'm in the Carolinas, so it's supposed to affect us probably more with rain. But my nephew was at Chapel Hill. They evacuated Chapel Hill College, and I'm sure they evacuated some of the other schools. And then I have friends who were down at Oak Island that had to evacuate there. Pretty scary stuff. I've been in one hurricane before. That was with Hugo that came through. Gosh, I don't remember how many years back, but it's been a while. And pretty scary. I was at home by myself, and my mom was working, and they would not let my mom leave work because for their safety, they thought it would be better for everyone to stay in the facility that they were in than to travel and get on the road. Well, I was at home by myself, and I was in this little, actually I was staying with, I don't remember if mom and dad were separated or what the deal was, but I was staying in this little, what I call a cracker box of a house, very small house. And I just remember hearing the trees snapping and cracking and popping and falling all around that little house. And I was probably, oh my goodness, I might have been about 15 or 16 years old. And I remember pulling the mattress off of the bed and crawling under the mattress so that in case something did fall in the house, or, you know, I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking I could protect myself. And I don't know that I don't know that that would have done much good, but when you're that age and you're scared and you're by yourself, you'll do whatever you think you need to do to protect yourself, and that's what I was doing. And it ended up being that he's now my stepdad, but my mom and stepdad were dating at the time, but my mom, since she couldn't get up from work, she ended up calling my stepdad and having him come pick me up and take me to a different house because it was a more secure place. And he drove all the way from another town, not even knowing where I was at. He had to find me in this house and take me to another house to keep me safe. But we made it through the storm, drove all the way through the middle of the storm in our car with tree limbs flying by us, and that was pretty crazy. It took us about an hour and a half to drive what would have normally been about a 5 or 10 minute drive. It took us about an hour and a half to get across town because it was so bad. It was crazy stuff. So this hurricane that's coming in, everybody's been what my son calls doomsday preppers. Everybody's been going to the grocery store and gathering up their milk and their bread, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna go. I waited till the last minute to go do my buying, which was I probably shouldn't have done that, but waited till the last minute, and I got to the grocery store. Well, I got to our Walmart, which has a grocery store in it, and walked into the bread, and there was probably 10 shelves for bread, maybe more, and got to the bread, and there was only like 4 or 5 loaves, and it looked like bread that would have been $1, $2 a pack. It looked like Walmart had took and raised the prices of all the bread, and it was like anywhere from $3 to $5 a loaf. And the only bread left was about 2 or 3 packs of, maybe 4 or 5 packs actually, of gluten-free bread, and it was $5 a loaf. And I was like, no, I will just eat crackers and peanut butter if I have to. So I ended up actually, I thought, well, I'll go get some tuna or some Vienna sausages or some beanie weenies or something like that, that in case our power goes out and I have to eat something that's out of the cabinet versus, you know, out of the refrigerator, in case we lose our stuff in the refrigerator, that I'll just do that. Got to the tuna and canned meat aisle, and literally every one of the shelves was wiped out with that too. I think there was maybe 2 cans of Vienna sausages, and they were the really hot, spicy Vienna sausages that I cannot eat because it would cause severe heartburn. But I was like, are you kidding me? These people have gone crazy. I mean, we're probably just going to get maybe a little bit of a power outage and some rain. It's not like I don't think we're going to be in the eye of the storm. But everybody, it's just like when it snows here. It's like people don't know how to deal with snow. So they drive 5 miles an hour down the road when it's snowing, and it's just so funny. It's like people don't know how to deal with it. It's really funny. But anyway, so Hurricane Florence is supposed to be coming through in the next day or so. And am I really prepared? No, not really. I'm just gonna wing it. I've got a couple of jugs of water, probably enough to get me by for a day or two, and we'll just go from there. And I bought some Lance crackers and some apples, so I will be eating Lance crackers and apples and drinking bottled water, I guess. It's food, it's edible, and it will sustain me until everything goes back to normal, if anything bad happens. And I do have a few candles, so. But I feel for the people that had to leave their homes and had to evacuate and go to a different place. And if they didn't have family members inland, if they're on the coast, if they didn't have family members inland, I don't know where these people go. I guess they'd go and stay in a hotel somewhere, inland somewhere. But I can imagine how devastated some of them will be when they go back home. And I feel for them. It's not easy when you lose things in life, especially things you've worked really, really hard for. So I can imagine how hard that would be. We have Bradford pear trees in our front yard, and Bradford pear trees are really bad for, I guess what you use. They're like weak trees, and the slightest bit of storm or rain or whatever weights down the branches, and they will snap in a heartbeat. My son had his car parked under the tree, one of the Bradford pear trees, and I made his daddy move it into the carport because I didn't want to have a crushed vehicle when this was all said and done. And the house that we're living in now, we actually experienced a tornado come through. I have never been in a tornado before, so it was like right after we first moved here. But a tornado came almost, I would say, within maybe 500 or 600 feet of our house, and it turned. It did some damage. The wind did some damage to our roof, and we had to get a new roof put on. But when it happened, okay, I'm a light sleeper, and it's really weird because I wake up at the drop of a hat. For some reason, I did not wake up this night in the middle of the storm. And my husband, who is a heavy sleeper and can sleep through everything, jumped up out of the bed and hollered at me and the kids and said, "Go get in the closet." And he shoved me and the kids in my daughter's closet, which is closer to the center of the hallway of the house. And it sounded like a freight train coming through our neighborhood. And you talk about being scared. But like I said, it turned. We actually used to go to church about maybe less than a mile away, and it actually turned and went down by our church that we were attending, but it did not come all the way to our house. It just, we had some little bit of wind off of it, but the tornado turned before it got to us. So I was thanking the Lord for protection. And I truly believe that's what it was protection. You just never know what can happen. And when you watch this video, you're probably, the storm's going to be long gone. It's going to be probably weeks after that storm comes and goes before you'll actually see this, before this video will get posted, because like I said, I'm going to wait and post this video after the client sees the finished product. I don't want him, because I do post sometimes my videos. Now, if they're longer, they might, if they're longer, they might not post on Facebook, but just because they have a limit. But, or sometimes they have a limit, or sometimes my equipment or whatever I'm using or whatever might not go that long. I think my editing software that I was using, which I don't have it on there now, I was trying a trial version, but it does not. That's why I'm doing real time, because on my editing software I could do time lapse, but I can't do the time lapse, I don't think, from just my video equipment. And if I can, I don't know how to do it, so that'd be something my son would have to help me with. But I was saying that for a reason. I'm trying to think of now why I was telling you that. But anyway, I'm doing these on real time just so I don't have to worry about doing that, going back and tweaking and editing too much on the video. And everywhere I put in little fine lines with my pen, I'm still using the blending stick and creating a little bit extra shadow there. I'll do the same thing here. Just going to go along this edge and I'll feather it out. I don't know if it was this video or if it was my last video of the Steampunk Man that I did, but I was talking about mistakes that I've made, or how to, sometimes we don't want to go back and completely redo a piece with a mistake. I made a mistake right here. When I was drawing in these lines, my pen went whoop, and so I just added, this was not on the original drawing, but I added this little bump on his nose. And I thought, well, versus having to go back and redo the whole thing, I will just give him another little metal device up here. There again, we learn sometimes how to tweak, camouflage, alter, whatever you have to do. I didn't want to have to redraw this whole thing over. But sometimes mistakes can be happy things, happy going-ons. Things that happen maybe unintentionally, but actually end up being a pleasant surprise for the picture. I've had that happen more than once. But I've also had mistakes happen, or what I call happy errors happen, that stump me big time. They will catch me off guard, and then it throws me off my game, and then I'm like stuck. I don't know where to go with it. With this one, I've camouflaged it, but sometimes we can't do that. Sometimes it will just throw a monkey wrench in the plans. Got a call a while ago. My stepdad had been in the hospital for the last 3 days with a real bad kidney infection and some issues with his heart. And they released him today, so he's doing really well. And they've got him on antibiotics, but his infection looks like it's trying to clear up. So I'm thankful for that. I put him on my prayer list at our church. And just glad to hear that he was able to come home. I went and visited him day before yesterday, and he was his silly self in good sorts. He wasn't eating very well, but he was his silly self in good spirits. And I'm just adding some more shadow in with my, even though I put shadows with the pencil, I'm going back in and putting shadows with this. And I'm getting so much pencil on this that I am going to use a piece of paper there, so I'll quit. I don't want to smear it. I'm actually cross-hatching this on the inside of here. I noticed I was following a pattern for a little while and then I lost that pattern. So I'm just cross-hatching it so that it all looks like it's uniform. And on my original drawing, I did these black, and I think I will go ahead and do them black. But I think I will leave a little smidgen of white along the edge, like a highlight. Just we'll see what that looks like. I don't want it to blend in too much with the letters, I mean the numbers. And that means all this gets colored in because this is the right where it's meeting in the middle underneath this cogwheel. Let's see. A little bit more shading right here. And of course blending. Pulling that out a little bit. Shading on the bottom of this. A little bit more shading on the bottom of this. And pulling it out again. Oh, feels a little bit of step up in there. Now my original drawing, this was gold. The cog was like a burnt umber, orange, almost orange color, rust color. And then we had rusty colors here around the rivets, on the panels, so, and even some on his neck. But I'm trying to go more simplistic with this sketch. And like I said, we're going to just add one pop of color somewhere. And I think with this one, I may do just this cog right here with that pop of color. And these are supposed to be rusty with rust color as well. It may just do the shading with that intent of rust with my pencil. And I don't want to blend this too much because I kind of like that gritty look on these panels. I'm just blending a little bit, but I do like the gritty look just because it makes it look more like rust. And then of course we'll do this one up here. And just kind of going up and down in a little wavy pattern, because rust tends to just take on its own form. When it's eating away at metal, it just goes wherever it wants to go. And it'll go in places like where these rivets are, places where water would maybe get trapped or whatever. Well, we're already an hour into this, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to finish this. Some people get frustrated with it taking them longer, but for me, it has been a good balance because I usually like instant gratification. And with these, I'm not doing anything with instant gratification. I'm just taking my time it flew. Now, each one of these grid lines is almost like a louver blind. So on my original, I had shadows under each one of these. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to come in and put these shadows in. And this is going to probably take a little while. I'm sorry if I'm having to cover over the sketch, but I'm trying to not smudge up my picture too bad. For you artist lovers out there and those that are maybe that take your artwork places, I am looking in North Carolina or South Carolina, just fairly local, places that I can take my artwork, like shows, fairs, whatever you want to call them, venues, where vendors can set up and show their work. So if you're watching my video and you know of some really cool place in North Carolina or South Carolina that allows artists to come in and set up a booth or whatever in their fair, or we have a thing called the Apple Festival, and this year it was this weekend and they had to postpone it because of the hurricane, but in the past they've canceled it. They didn't postpone it, they canceled it. This year they actually postponed it. I guess there was maybe a lot of people that were fussing about when they shut it down last time, because if you think about it, vendors, if you sell a product, or especially if it's handmade, and you go to all this trouble of making it and then they shut the event down and you've got all this inventory of things that you maybe wouldn't normally sell elsewhere, but maybe you stock up for that event, it kind of puts a bummer. It's a bummer for those that spends all that time to do that. But if you know of any craft fairs, artists, places that artists can set up, either for my clothing or for the artwork that I do, in the comments below, send me some fairs or some events that you know of that would be good places for me to maybe check into. Like I said, in the past I've been out of art for a while, and this is something that I want to pursue. And in small towns like what I live in, you have to do whatever you got to do to get your name out there. And that's why I've started doing the videos, because although I may not have a lot of followers, people watching, just to start off, I'm just going to continue to keep doing it and plug at it and hope for the best. But I hope to build not just my YouTube channel, but Facebook and my Instagram page, and just an awareness to what I do in all of these different areas. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't use LinkedIn very often. I actually have a website through Wix.com, I think it is. But I don't really use my website that much. I don't sell off of there. And I currently, all of my clothing and my artwork has timed off on my Etsy sites. And I find that Etsy, sometimes, I love Etsy. I love to go in there and look and get ideas, and I think a lot of people do that. They go in and look and get ideas, but are they maybe buying as much as I would like? Probably not. So I'm not sure if Etsy is really the avenue that I need to go with my art. So I would like to get into some of these shows. Just to get people aware of my artwork and that I'm out there. I actually did I guess you would call it it was actually like a flea market, which I was really shocked because I wasn't expecting it. I've been to this facility before. It was like a senior center. I know that sounds really silly to do a craft fair there, but I've done craft fairs there before, actually when I had my antique business. But I would sell my jewelry, my handmade jewelry, upcycled scarves and different things that I made at this craft fair, and it's in a little town near me. And this particular year, I had not done anything for a couple of years with them, and they called and wanted to know if I would be interested in coming and setting up. I was like, you know what, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to go and I'm going to set up and I'm going to try my Born Again clothing line. Well, I was really shocked because all the people that come through there were older people, and if you see my clothing line, you would know what I'm talking about. I just kind of felt like, oh my gosh, what older person would like what I've got, because it's so out there, so wild. But I actually sold a lot of stuff at that event, and it got me really excited about continuing to make clothes. And eventually I may I would love to do some fashion shows and maybe have them videoed. Do some local fashion shows, and also I'd like to do some trunk sales. But that's with my other part of my business. So. Okay, hopefully this will look like louvers or some type of little cast shadow under like a blind. It won't look so much like college rule paper, because that's kind of what it looked like before, is college rule paper. And I want it to look more like it's a louver blind or something, a very, very narrow louver blind. Well, I've probably talked your head off while I've been drawing. And honestly, I've said so much, and yet so little. I've said so much, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to talk about. I may have just talked myself out of a conversation next time. Who knows? Oh, I'll just say this. I don't do shout outs to people because I want to get any kind of recognition, or because I'm hooked up with them to give them recognition. But if you struggle with art, or struggle with some things in art, maybe your weak areas. Well, my weak areas is people, and usually I have to grit off people. But I have been watching Draw with Jazza, I think is what it's called. Jazza is the coolest. I don't know how many viewers he has. I didn't pay attention. I just know that I struggle with the anatomy, and I struggle with hands and poses. And although I have the little wooden dolls that you can pose and go by, I've just always struggled with people. And so I decided to watch Jazza one day. I think he was working on hands or something, and I was just amazed and mesmerized by how easy he made it. And I thought to myself, no, I'm not a perfectionist at it still. I've only practiced a couple of times since I've watched his videos, but in the few times that I've watched his videos, the change in my postures, my people, the poses, the positioning of the hand and all that, it drastically changed 10 times better. I mean, just with 1 or 2 lessons of watching him. So, if you haven't checked out Drawing with Jazza, Jazza, go check him out. He's, I think he does mostly like anime, maybe, or comic type characters, but his tutorials are really, really insightful on how to accomplish that with it. And I'm sure he has other tutorials on other things. I just know that was what I looked up, was how to draw the human body and hands and that sort of thing. And I really liked it. And the other day I was watching one of his videos, and my son came in and he was like, "Are you watching Jazza?" And I was like, "Yeah." So he obviously knew who Jazza was before I did. And he has a few artists that he likes to watch. Now, one of my favorite artists to watch, and he's actually not far from me. I would love to go visit him one day, which I'm sure he could care less about visiting me, because he seems to be sort of a to himself kind of person. But that's Peter Draws. I love to watch his videos too, and to listen to him read stories. So I will get my sketchbook out and I will listen. Sometimes I'll watch, but a lot of times I'll just listen to him read me a story while I draw in my sketchbook. And I love it. It's just so, it's corny, but it's so cute. And it's him. It's part of who he is and what he likes to do. And, you know, he's made that his, I guess, his signature thing to do. But I love his drawings. My son draws a lot like Peter draws. I won't say he's mastered what Peter draws has mastered as far as techniques and stuff, but my son has sort of the same out there concepts, I guess you could say. And especially his pen and ink, he likes to do pointillism and cross hatching and some of the pen techniques, but he reminds me of Peter Draws. But my son's still young, so he's got a ways to go, and he doesn't practice or draw every day. It's not something that he's thinking about going into art. He's on his last year of high school. He's thinking about going into art, but it's not like he's actively pursuing that right now. Although he could probably sell the art now because he's that good, I think. And he's done some comic book characters. Deadpool, I say comic, I don't know if Deadpool's comic or not. I don't keep up with that stuff. Deadpool and Flash. Flash was one of the shows he really liked to watch. And I just noticed I did not put lines on this side, so I've got to go in here and pull those lines across. But anyway, he likes to do those kind of characters too, and he does a really good job. Now he would do good at Dragon Con setup, drawing characters, or you know, selling his artwork of drawings with characters. And then my daughter, who is a tattoo artist, which I've mentioned before, she actually, when she was in high school, she used to draw. I remember coming home one day, she drew like a comic strip. I dropped my, oh my goodness, hold on one second. I dropped all my pens on the floor. I've got this little ledge right here on my desk that holds my pens, and they all decided to fall off. But what was I going to tell you? Anyway, my daughter came home one time and she drew this little comic strip of, I think it was a duck, just a little cute duck, and she had put him in all these different poses. And I thought that was so cool because, like, I can't even do that. I can see things in my head, but when it comes down to putting it on paper, sometimes I struggle with that even. And now, this was a totally my concept, and the one of the guy that I drew, the first initial drawing was my original concept, and then I went and got a picture of a different man than what I had drawn, and tweaked him and drew him because he had a better pose. And no, it's not cheating. It's called inspiration and getting the right look you're wanting to have for your artwork. But I can't do, if I see something in my head, I can't change those poses of that people real easily. That's one reason I wanted to watch Jazza, because Jazza shows you how to change those poses, and because she makes it look so simple. And I'm sure I got a long ways to go before I've mastered his techniques, but it does help. I'm just darkening up that little chain right there. And then I think I'll put a little bit of color on this key and the chain itself. Just taking what's on my linen stick and rubbing it in. It's already got enough color there to put some color down. Now when I did that, that blends it in a little bit, so I'm just going to go back in here and darken up this shadow just a little bit more. And the outline. And even these little, I don't know what you call these, it's part of the key, it's like little bumps on the key, a little detail design. Just going underneath the bottom half of it, make it look a little bit raised up. And then back up on this side, just darkening that line a little. Okay, is this piece done? With the exception of color in one area on this picture is pretty much, I would say, done. Like I said, I've got to put, and I'm thinking I'm going to probably do it on this, and then with the other picture that I'm working on is this one, and I did add white from the last picture you saw, or the last video. I did add a little bit of white in here with colored pencil over top to give that lens almost a frosty look. The only thing I've got left to do on this is some shading on his clothes and this bee right here, and then a pop of color. And my original drawing was a black background, but I'm debating on whether I want that in a black background, because I really want, where did it go? I really want these two pieces to rest side by side. When he displays them, these two pieces are going to be probably displayed together. So I even thought about repeating this behind here, but I'm not sure yet. I've sent him a message to see if he would like that idea, and I haven't got a response yet. So these are the two I'm working on. Hope you got to watch the videos on both of these. And what I'll do is, once I've done all 4 drawings, I will go ahead and put the color in, and then I'll take a video, a little very short video that shows you each picture and maybe the extra changes I made. But for now, this one is complete other than the color. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and check back with me on one of my next drawings. I'm going to be starting another one probably tomorrow. And of course you're not going to see the video that quickly, but yeah, I'm going to probably start a new one. So you will hopefully get to see that video soon. Alright, thanks for watching, and if you, I forgot one thing. I forgot a shadow. So I will just say this as I'm putting in this shadow. If you get a chance to comment or you like my drawings, check me out on Instagram. I am under Floodlight Artist on Instagram, Floodlight Art Studio on Facebook. Check me out on those pages and link up with me, and like my page. And if you like my page, then you will be able to see daily sketches that I do and so forth. So wish me luck on this journey. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.